Welcome to another episode of Dentalflix Uncut. I am your co-host, Allison Lacusier, here with Dr. Anissa Holmes, and we have an incredible guest on today, Maritza Duran. Welcome to the Dentalflix Uncut podcast.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. I'm really honored.
We're excited to get to know you a little bit better and hear all of the ways that you are impacting the industry. So, why don't you kick us off with how you are supporting our amazing dental industry today and some of the big things and big impacts that you're making in our world?
Beautiful. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for the opportunity. How do I help dentists in the industry? Well, my passion is to help dentists who are associate practice practitioners who are thinking about, hey, I'm at a crossroads where I don't know if I want to continue to be an associate or if I want to take on the leap of faith and start my own practice. And practice ownership comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of overwhelm, and a lot of stress. And so my passion is to help those associate dentists that want to transition from being an employee to actually running and launching their very first dental practices, and to do it in a way that it's both profitable and fulfilling for them.
I love it.
So I'm very curious, and this is Dentalflix Uncut. So I'd love to hear a little bit more of like your story, right? Like, so why associates? Why are you helping in this way? Like, you could be doing anything in the world, but why this?
Well, my journey began when I started working in a dental office at a entry-level position. I used to work at a supermarket, and there was an assistant dental school right next door. And someone said, I'm working with this young dentist who just started his practice, and I need help. This is the dental assistant intern saying I need someone to help me become the sub assistant. So I said, sure. I was in high school. I was working part-time in a supermarket as a cashier. And so I was given the opportunity, and I was 16 years old. Fast forward, I worked with that dentist for over 18 years. And over that period, his second office, which was a startup, he actually gave me the opportunity to become a front desk person. And I took that practice with no experience, and literally just, here's the phones of the dental insurances. Here is what we want to do. And off you go. This was his second location. And I learned by trial and error and took the practice from zero to almost $3 million in revenue in a decade. And over that 10-year period, I also developed relationships that led to an expansion where we became a DSO practice. Now, when we turned into DSO, we had 15 locations, and I became regional manager. I started to notice that a lot of the associates that were working for the group were always saying, hey, Maritza, I would love to become a partner of the practice, but there are no opportunities for me to do that. I'm starting my family, and I've been working in this group for 10 years, and I don't see that there's growth for me or opportunity. And so I began to notice that, and I personally started my own family. I was, like, I had my son, and he was like a very, sick child. I went through a lot to get pregnant with him. So it was just like I wanted to be the Montefiore mom, and I'm sorry, the Montessori mom. And with the traveling and all of the things, I was unable to just be there and like breastfeed my child. So it was a lot of stress for me, and it was a lot of my associate dentists that I was a regional manager of were expressing to me, hey, I would love to start my own practice, but I just don't know how. And having helped my former employer open office after office, like after office number 5, we were like, okay, let's set systems, let's get this thing ready so that it's like a well-oiled machine before we even apply to become a DSO. And so I gained a lot of experience operationally on how to get the offices up and running. And I was motivated and inspired by someone to try to quit my position. So I quit my job, and I helped my very first associate dentist, Dr. Maritza Smith, a pediatric dentist, and she was she was very grateful. She was my first client. I was her first consultant. And we, we really supported each other through this journey as like two young moms that wanted to start something new. I as a consultant, she as a business owner, and it was like a win-win for both of us. And that's, I became passionate about helping, young dentists that are starting their families, but also want to start their very first business.
I love your story. I love your story. It's, you and I have chatted about this before and like the synergies of kind of starting. I was a dental assistant and then growing the practice. And the cool thing about what you do is that you can't go to get a like specialty certification or a degree or anything in order to have the knowledge and the experience that you have. Like through building these practices, through supporting these dentists, like this is how you became such an expert in what you've done. And it's so valuable. And so I want to know some of the challenges that you're noticing right now that you're solving in your position. Like what are some of the problems that doctors are coming to with? How are you seeing them and how are you solving them today in your business?
I feel that one of the biggest challenges that dentists face is not understanding their numbers. I feel that there are five pillars or principles that every business owner, and this is something that I follow myself and I implement myself, but I also see this in my clients. So the five, pillars of practice ownership success, in my view, are always starting with a very clear vision of what you want. The second one is having and surrounding yourself with the right people. The third one is understanding your numbers. The fourth is developing and having leadership and training. And the fifth one is systems, right? And everything is somewhat interconnected. But as far as the biggest mistake that I see dentists make who are first-time practice owners is not understanding their numbers, right? Like everything is important, but I feel that the numbers always tell a story. And as first-time business owners, myself included, and I think that we can all at some point in our journey as business owners for the first time, we can all relate that we shy away from the numbers, and the numbers tell us a story that sometimes we shy away from. And then it just becomes more of a challenge for us to overcome that. So some of the mistakes that I see my clients or dentists generally speaking is shying away from making sure that they have a good grasp and understanding of how to manage a startup budget. Like you're taking the biggest purchase in your lifetime, perhaps, by taking a loan to start your first business. And the banks are happy to give it to you, but you have a responsibility with that. And so given $800,000, like you become a prey to so many ways of as a consumer to feel like I need to spend on this, I need to spend on that. So not centralizing and having systems with a clear vision or working with the right people to manage your numbers, having a startup budget and understanding that, hey, after my startup budget, having operational expenses broken down and knowing the three important numbers, my overhead, my reimbursement, how I'm going to get paid, how do I position my fees and all of that. So really, I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes because they are starting their businesses already at a disadvantage when they don't have enough working capital or when they borrow too much and they just, are just not setting up themselves for success because the stress is just that much higher when you didn't save or where you didn't manage your spending for at the beginning, at the pre-opening phase of your business.
So I'd like to just kind of help people. Like, how can we help people, right? And oftentimes what I see is this sort of, well, I help people with this or help people with that. And I'm always like, no, just tell people how you help them, right? So I would love for you, for those who are listening, right? And this is really all about startup success, right? Like, how are you helping your clients win? Maybe share a story of somebody that you've helped and what was the outcome, a story there, but exactly like, what do you do? What does your company do? How do you really help? Right.
So it's very interesting because no, of course. So the best way to describe it, I had a dentist recently. We had a meeting and she said, Maritza is kind of like my doula. She basically has helped me from selecting my location, getting connected with the people that are helping me with getting funding, helping me create and analyze the market to figure out where am I going to start my practice. So from selecting a smart location to launching a practice to growing it fully operationally. Those are the areas where, I help dentists. So think about it as your guide and your partner with no equity, to ensure that you're going to launch successfully and operate it, efficiently once you open up for business.
And what are the areas of confusion, right? So I hear startups saying like, I don't even know where to get started with like insurance. Like, how do I do that? Like, is that something that you help people with?
Of course. So I think that there are, again, like the milestones, right? Like the first 4 to 6 months of you, once you make the decision to start your practice, you're going to start to analyze the market. And that's kind of like the pre-planning phase. Where do I open? Where is it feasible? How can I be competitive? Like doing all of that market research and then going out there to figure out what's my vision? How much space do I need? How much space can I afford? Then the other side is once you have a lease that it's properly negotiated, and just you asked me to give you an example. We have a client in Virginia. She moved from California and she knew that she didn't want to continue to be an associate when she when she relocated. And so we started working with her, helping her find a location. She found the location that spoke to her after months of searching. And once we helped her with making sure that she had her lease negotiated properly, like the tenant improvements there. Now we're working with her on vetting the equipment reps, going through a startup budget, putting all of the pieces of the puzzle. I always tell my clients it's like 1,000-piece puzzle, and we have to go one item at a time. So right now, maintaining that budget, making sure that she's getting the walls. I always say that, we have tangibles and intangibles in our businesses, right? Like in a dental practice, as a business, it is like first you have the location, right? And the location has to meet certain criteria, and it has to be to your liking. But the return on investment a lot of times is on your practice. And the planning beforehand, right? Like that intangible or that pre-opening phase is extremely crucial. So as she's going about selecting the location and all these things, and we're guiding her through that process, then now we are kicking off the operational development. So we are reaching out to the top employers in the area and the competitors in the area to determine, okay, how do we structure a business model? How is our insurance mix going to be? And what is going to be our reimbursement? How are we going to make sure that our overhead is going to be met so that we can translate that into number of patients, create the marketing strategy, and from there, making sure that we manage the schedule properly. So the planning, now the operational development. And once we are getting closer to the milestone of like, okay, now we need people who is going to be the right fit, that is going to be in alignment with my vision model, with my business model, my vision and the mission and the purpose of my company. We are going to start the selection process once we get closer to as the construction is happening and so on and so forth. Once we have a team in place, then I start helping them, passing down all of my 20+ years of experience, having been a dental assistant, front desk, office manager, getting in their shoes and really mentoring them to really help them see the benefit of like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter where you're starting dentistry, there's so much opportunity for growth. And I'm a testament to that because I started literally scrubbing instruments in a dental office, to just being able to help expand individually and help so many people collectively grow and really make dentistry something that they're passionate and fulfilled to be a part of this industry. So that's kind of like the training phase, and then making sure that all of the systems for the practice, everything is centralized. We run a well-oiled machine, so everything that we need to do, our key performance indicators for making sure that we're seeing the right number of patients and how do we attract them, all of that, post opening, which is extremely crucial. I had someone reach out to me and said, like I've been open for over a year and I did work with a consultant, but I feel like I was kind of left in the woods because all the emphasis was much more on getting the walls or the house, if you will. But, like now I feel help with putting my home, which is the practice, which is where the return on investment is, the intangibles. And I think I have a really good grasp on both. and the exposure, having, been myself in their shoes, and managed so many offices over the years.
Anissa has this saying that I like it's like one of those things that like once it's like burned into your brain, like you'll never forget it. And as you were talking, I was thinking about it. Like she says, like, cut checks for speed. And I think like, and what of course that means is like we can pay to move faster. We can pay to have the knowledge of your 20 years of experience. We can pay to have the things that we want in our life faster, but we just have to obtain that knowledge and have that support along the way. And I can only imagine, like, not only would if somebody's paying to hire you, are they cutting checks for speed, but they're cutting checks for like peace of mind. They're cutting checks for doing it right the first time. They're cutting checks to be able to make money faster as soon as they open their doors. And they're like, we talk about intangibles a lot, but like protecting the human being that is building this dental practice, because the amount of like stress, pressure, fear, worry, doubt, all of those things along the way, having somebody like you, I think would be absolutely critical to that piece. Like, I'm like, I want to start a dental office and I'm going to hire you to help me build it because, just we could go through it alone and save the money on a consultant like you, or we save years of our life and years of stress on our gut lining and be able to be like to have a successful business because we invest in the things that really make a difference, like somebody that has the experience that you have.
100%.
What is like what tell I would love to hear like a story of like one of your greatest like successes. I can only imagine the opening of doors and the seeing the businesses come to life. Like you must have such a rewarding career because of that.
Are you referring to client stories or my personal story? Like a client?
I would love to hear a client story.
So, I mean, I have so many, but two things that really, um, I will share two with you briefly. My first client, she was able to have like $1 million practice in her first year. And this is when we were first getting started, right? Like setting up the office and just making sure that the demographic was there, that she saved, through the build out, that we negotiated reimbursement, that we hired the team, that we trained the staff, and that we had the systems in place post opening for her to have that strong foundation to start off with, led to her, basically generating $1 million in her first year. And when we sat down for lunch later on, she was like, Maritza, you cannot imagine how much I had to pay in taxes, and I was like, oops, that's an area where to me as a new business owner, I was not equipped to sharing with her kind of like the strategies and things like that. I said, okay, this is a job for an expert that can help you, basically reduce your liability in terms of, taxes and things like that. And that was sort of like, but the reward for me was like, oh my gosh, like I was able to do the same thing that I did for my former employer as an employee. And I was able to do that as a consultant for a woman, a mom that was just starting her business just like me. Most recently, I had a dentist who started her practice in Virginia about last year. And I was speaking to her, like we went through this whole process. She had a lot of delays with the construction and the permitting for her building, and a lot of delays for the build out. And so we started working on putting together like a VIP list before then, like with a landing page, and we started just collecting emails and really getting on their, a voice over IP to try to call patients once we knew that we were going to get the office up and running, but there were always delays to get the CO. But once she launched the practice, she had a fully booked schedule. And around the summertime, it's really interesting because I used the text message that she sent me at a presentation that I had earlier this week, the lifestyle. Like it just spoke to my heart when she told me. I was like, Dr. Peterson, how's the office going? How are you doing? And she's like, I'm enjoying my summer. We reduced our schedule. We condensed the schedule. And I am so excited to be able to spend, like the afternoons going to the pool with my daughters, and like she teaches dance at her daughter's dance school. And she was able to get a schedule around her personal lifestyle and the things that she still wanted within the first year, within months of opening her first practice. So not only was she able to, break even, be profitable, but she was also able to spend time with her family, which is also something that I value myself as a business owner who has, you know, two small children, more or less myself.
No, I think it's really interesting. I had a startup doctor tell me one time, you know, I spent $500,000 on dental school, right? And she bought the building. So I bought the building and then $500,000 on building the actual practice. So she's like, I've spent $1.5 million. Like it would be silly of me not to invest whatever it's going to be, another 30,000 or whatever it's going to be, 15,000 or whatever consulting is, to not learn how to run my business, right? It makes absolutely no sense. And, you know, right now I'm actually reading an early or advanced copy. Benjamin Hardy, I'm a huge fan of his. He's going to be at our event. But his next book is called Rapid Transformation. I've got an early access copy. And it's really all about how do you choose the one or two things that if you just do that, you're going to get the result. You know, so if you want to have your son as a professional tennis player, hire the coach that everybody who he trains goes to become a professional. But this new book is really all about not only what are the one or two things that will get you the transformation, but how do you do it faster? So if you make a decision that you want to have $1 million practice, instead of having the tools that's going to take you 3 years, what are you going to do to have it happen in a year, right? And so having the right mentors really is really all about it. Setting those big goals and just moving into action, right, I think is really, really huge. So as we're kind of like wrapping up, I would love to hear maybe one of the biggest mistakes, right? So for those who maybe didn't hire a consultant, that come to you and say, man, I wish I would have found you when I had my, you know, startup, and they have regret, right? Like I'd love to hear, you know, was it around choosing the wrong location? Was it around like not marketing fast enough? Like what was the biggest regret of people that made a decision that they thought they can do it on their own, and then they regret it, like not finding you or finding a solution?
I would say that not finding someone um, with the right support that they need for the practice. Because I think that it's very easy for a builder to say, I can build you a practice, right? Like you help and you coach dentists. And the way that you do it is because you've been there, you've done that, you have lived, you've walked their shoes, you've been in an actual dental practice. And so not hiring the right team of advisors is going to be one of those mistakes. Now, as far as like if you decide to do it on your own, the one thing that I will tell you as a new practice owner is you have to be mindful of your spending. So manage your spending throughout the build out. And then your job as a business owner is always to reduce costs and to increase your, you know, your profit, your production, if you will. And the way that you protect the production as a startup practice is, number one, managing the spending throughout the build out, but also you need to optimize, your reimbursement. So understand that there's a difference between credentialing and contracting when you are setting up a new entity or a new tax ID. Very briefly, I had a dentist recently reach out to me again with a regret because he said, I have my office for about 1.5 years now. The partner was the builder of the practice. And when I asked questions like, how did you decide to open in this practice? There weren't really that many answers. Now, they could make the mistake of setting up an office and trying to put, lipstick on a pig by not doing the due diligence demographically. But I think that if you're flexible, you can make a dental practice work anywhere. I have offices that have opening an 800-to-1 patient to doctor ratio, and they are flexible enough to make and create a strategy around the area where they opened. But if you're overspending at the beginning and you're not protecting how you're being reimbursed by signing up and just becoming credentialed with insurance companies, and filling out paperwork and getting the fees later on, and just really being underpaid for the services that you're doing when you paid a premium price for getting your office set up, I think that that's the biggest mistake I've seen dentists make in the recent years.
Well,
Thank you, Maritza, for sharing your history, your stories, your journey, how you're helping practices. I can see so clearly how important it is to have the right person on your team when you're building. Like, this is one of the most important things that you'll ever do in your life. And I see you just being the person that like solves the problem before it's a problem and setting these doctors up for success even before they get started. And I can't even imagine the value of having you on their team. And so thank you so much for sharing that today. If you are about to build a practice, you want to build a practice, you have a dream of building a practice, reach out to Maritza. It's going to save you so much and help you just enjoy this process of building. I love that you said they call you a doula, like a practice doula. Help build this baby of yours in a fun way that, won't cause you heartache and headache along the way.
also, we want to thank you for, of course, being a content creator inside of Dentalflix. Maybe you can share just a little bit about where they can or what they can learn inside of your course within Dentalflix.
Sure. So I have two courses. One is for those who are looking to hire someone with no previous dental experience, and they really want to get them involved in understanding the basics of insurance, acceptance, and participation, and how dental insurances work when you are relatively new to that. The other area that speaks to my heart is that I put a course around is nonverbal communication and being able to, as a front desk person myself, like English is my second language. I started and I have a lot of practical experience in a dental practice. However, I didn't get a college degree or anything else. So I wanted to get myself into a position where I was able to get to project myself as more confident, as really reading the nonverbal cues of patients and my employers, and be able to come across as more confident as a speaker, as I'm presenting treatment, as I am, connecting with my peers and my coworkers in the office. And so really understanding kind of like how to improve your nonverbal body language and nonverbal communication skills, and being able to decode it from other people so that you can have a better outcome of interactions between you, your family, your patients, your employer, your coworkers. I think that was like a fun experience for me, and that is something that you can find also here on Dentalflix that I'm really excited about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, helping doctors understand what they really need to focus on as they are preparing for their startup. And I'd love for you to share as well, how can they reach out to you if they want to set up a call or learn more about how you can help them?
Sure. So my website name is mdentcs.com. That's mdentcs.com for MDent Consulting Services. I'm on social media as well. So if you want to connect with me there, I'm just, I have a discovery link also on all of my social media profiles, which is Maritza E. Duran. So that's where you'll be able to find me to schedule a consultation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Nice for having me. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I look forward to staying around and seeing you guys and hanging out soon.
Awesome. Take care, guys. And we'll see you on the next episode of Dentalflix Uncut. Take care.
Bye.
You just unlocked valuable insights with Dentalflix Uncut. But there's more. Dentalflix is not just a podcast. It's a thriving community, a hub of knowledge, and the #1 online streaming CE platform in dentistry. With just a few clicks, you can start exploring a wealth of resources, including in-depth training on leadership, case acceptance, scheduling, hiring, weekly marketing calls, insightful gap assessments, and scorecards, all designed to help you master what you discovered today and propel you further on your path to dental excellence. Head to dentalflix.com to get started for free and embark on your journey towards mastery. Thanks for tuning in to Dentalflix Uncut. See you next time.